Right, so we've got a question. How is it best to approach a long contract position with your suppliers? Well, from a hop perspective, the sooner we know that you may be long on a particular hop, the better. At Charles Faram, we're looking to work with brewers on this situation. So if you're long on one hop, but you're finding another brand is perhaps going a little better, we would look to help swap out from one variety to another where we can. And really, it's about communication again. What about you, Nigel? Have you got anything to say about malt contracts?
Yeah, I'd say traditionally a lot of the smaller guys, they haven't contracted. And I would suggest that particularly in a year like we've just had, it's very important to contract. You'll be first in the queue, or at least close to the front. And again, it takes away the risk element of things. And normally I would suggest at least a 1-year contract to protect supply. 2 years is also a good idea, but of course it can go against you if prices do suddenly go down. But at least you can budget ahead and you're sure to get a key raw material. 3 years is a long time. If prices go down 2 years in succession, then you can be left exposed against your competitors potentially. But certainly, although they're not always necessary most years, I would recommend that you do talk to your suppliers and think about putting contracts in place.
So we've had another question in. Is there any leeway on payment terms or understanding that brewers are economically challenged, i.e. can payment plans be put into place? So at Charles Faram, we've been working on a case-by-case basis. We've been trying to help out as much as possible, and obviously long-term relationships is our strong point, we feel. And so, yes, of course, talk to us if we understand and can put it together, put into place a plan together. We would certainly look to help out as much as we possibly can, bearing in mind that as a supplier and having to pay for hops before they leave the farm, we're also in a challenging situation at the moment. Nigel?
Yeah, absolutely, and we're in a very similar situation. We have given support. We have enabled people to hold on to payments and pay. Give them some grace, but as Will says, likewise, we're a bigger company, but all companies need cash flow and they have to be responsible. So it is very much a case by case situation. But again, it is that old, let's keep talking. We can help people when we have information to work on. If we only have a balance sheet in front of us, it's very difficult to glean what's happening to that customer in the marketplace and what plans they have moving forward. So, yeah, but very much, keep talking. But Christmas
as the Brexit deadline approaches. As the Brexit deadline approaches, if we are reliant on raw ingredients from the EU, is there anything we can do to ensure continuous supply? Nigel?
But definitely there's concerns, isn't there, about getting goods into the country. So if you're already buying a particular product, then I would certainly think about ordering well in advance. I haven't got a time frame attached to that, but yeah, definitely order well in advance and possibly looking to build up stock. That'll have impacts on cash flow, of course, but if you can afford to do that, particularly in this period of uncertainty where we still don't quite know how it's going to pan out, then there's two things to consider.
So at Charles Faram, to mitigate any fallout from Brexit, we've ensured that almost all our European supplies of hops are already in the country. So we brought them over and we're packing them as we speak. As far as other ingredients, we do import some malt, Nigel, and we import some yeast and other products from Europe. We've tried to bring in several months' worth of stock whilst trying to ensure that we still have the freshest stock available for customers. But we feel we're well placed. The problem really is likely to be special order items, and it's getting a little bit late to order those now in time for them to be brought over. But if there's anything in particular that you need, speak to us as quickly as you can, and we'll try and make sure that they're brought over. From what we're seeing at the moment, there is delays in port. There's already been delays caused by this, and everybody rushing to move things around, both export and import wise. From your hop contract perspective, we're still waiting for a deal to be struck, and if hops went under WTO rules, there would be a 5.8% rate on the import of hops from Europe. But you have to bear in mind, 5.8% sounds like a not inconsiderable amount of money, but quite often currency fluctuation can vary more than that. So we think that 5.8% can be managed without too much impact on final prices. Okay. In a difficult year, how can we be assured of the quality of the raw ingredient supply? Would you like to start with this one, Nigel?
Yeah, by all means. It was an interesting year with the rain and the drought. I mean, talking specifically of crisp, I think we're well placed in as much as we have very close ties with the growing groups, ABC in particular, growing group in Norfolk. But we also have extensive barley storage just off the M4 corridor. So that's great in that it spreads the risk in a difficult growing year.
So with hops, we're almost always buying from multiple growers. And my advice, if you contract for hops, and when we're allowed to move around, not really possible in lockdown, but where possible, if it's a key ingredient to you, you can come and do selection with us. So you can come and look at the hops that we're going to supply for the rest of the year. All our batches of hops are traceable back to not just the grower, but the field they come from. And if you particularly like one batch, we will make sure that you get supplied with that batch for the rest of the year. As far as contracting specifically for an individual farm long term, we recommend against that, because hops are very susceptible to microclimates and terroir, and it can easily happen that you can have a bad year on one farm. And if you're committed completely to a single farm growth, you may find in some years you have to adjust your recipe in order to get the most out of your raw ingredients.
I think going back to the malt, again, it's talking to your supplier. There will be some people blending varieties this year. Take a close look at the nitrogens. If a price is remarkably good, then ask the question, why is it so good? Is it of the same quality that I would normally hope to get from my supplier?
Great. Well, unless we have any other questions, that is all we've got to say for the time being. Thank you very much for joining us.